Next, we're going to add another tapping feature that will change this orange color every time you tap. But before we do that, I forgot to turn up the metallic roughness and occlusion sliders on here. When you import the ORM texture, I don't think it does anything until you crank these up. Now you can see the metallic part on the top here actually turns metallic when this is up, and same with the roughness. So you can see the surface has a little bit of roughness, where if this slider is 0, everything is totally shiny. You can see a little bumpiness, but that's from the normal map. So turn that up, and the occlusion, I don't know if there's actually anything in the occlusion channel, but we'll just leave that up. So now all these little bolts should be shiny now too. So in order to change this orange texture, let's go back to Substance, and we need to make a sort of alpha matte or Luma matte just to select those panels. So I'm going to click and drag this little eyeball to unselect all these, and then we'll just use this plastic orange, but we'll duplicate this, hide the original, and make this color pure white. Just change this to white. And to make this work, we also need to add a flat black underneath. So we'll make a black layer. And right now it's in this folder, so we'll just drag it all the way out to the bottom. And if we turn off material and just go base color, you can see now we have a perfect black and white mask just for that orange area. So if we go to File, Export Textures, and I have a preset set up where it's color only, that way it just exports the color channel, you can go to Output Templates and build your own over here and set exactly what you want. So this color only I have set to just the RBG and A. And it looks like it's in the right folder, but we don't want to overwrite anything. So I'm going to change this to 002. And all this looks good, so we'll export and open the directory. And now this is just a perfect matte of all the orange areas. So we can drag this in. And now I put some comments around these just to organize them. But we're going to drop this all the way down here. And we also need the color channel because we're going to be affecting that color. And I should rename all these. So I'll just rename this text orange matte. And then I'll just leave those for now, just so we can tell the difference between these two. And now what we want to do is essentially take this, change the color information only on the orange parts, and then kind of combine that with the original of itself. So let's go to the AR library, and under Patch Assets, Shaders, we'll grab this Adjust Colors. And it pops in under the Patches folder. And then we need to eventually go back into this matte for the robot under the albedo. And so let's see what happens if we just go straight across here and then change the hue. That actually works perfectly without this mask because the only color in this whole texture is the orange. So we actually don't need this necessarily, but you're not always going to have a material that only has one color on it. So we'll set this up as if there's other colors we don't want to adjust. So if we take this is our adjusted color. And let's see, how do I organize this? Put this over here. And we're going to mix the adjusted color with the original color. So we'll add a mix patch. And we'll use this orange matte, which is the matte here, as the alpha channel. And this alpha only affects this mix node. So it tells how much to use of this versus this using this alpha. So we'll put this in here and then the original in here. So what it's doing is it's mixing this original texture with this adjusted texture using this alpha, and then it's spitting it back out to that texture or that material. So now let's just show this as an example. If we boost or reduce the brightness, you can see it's only affecting that part. If we go all the way up, same thing. So all of this area here is not being affected at all, no matter what we do with this adjust colors shader. And so now we want to make it so every time we tap, this hue changes a little bit. And I think this goes between 0 and 1. So if I go all the way back up to 1, the color is back to where it was at 0, because 0 to 1 is the same as kind of 0 to 360 if we're talking about degrees with the hue. So we have the screen tap here. Instead of dragging that all the way over, we can have a sender and receiver. So a sender will grab the information, and this is a trigger, so we want to make sure it's under pulse. Pulse trigger is kind of the same thing. And now down here, we can add a receiver, and we want to receive what the sender is sending. And it's best to always name these. So this will be screen tap. It says screen tap's already taken. So screen tap sender. And that way, in this receiver, we can see screen tap sender is selected, so we know it's the right one. And now we can't plug this directly in. We need to increase values slowly. So we'll add a counter. So every time the screen is tapped, this counter increases. So this can only go between 0 and 1. So obviously the maximum count can't be too high. But instead, we can multiply by 0.1 and have the maximum count be 10. So every time we tap, this goes up by 0.1 essentially, because this will go up by 1, but then we multiply by 0.1. So let's plug that into the hue. And this is still on tap. So every time we tap this, you can see it changes color by 10% or by 0.1. And then eventually, this should reset once we get to 10. Let's just test it. So at 0.9. And now we're back at 0 because this reset. And that looks correct because we're back at the orange color. So now every time we tap, the animation plays and it changes color right away. And if we want this color to change just a little bit slower, not instantaneously, we can add a smoothing, an exponential smooth. So we'll drag that over, add an exponential smoothing. And then because this is only a numerical value, this will be able to smooth it very easily. So now you can see it kind of slowly fades over. If we crank this up quite a bit more to 1,000, it's a little harder to see, but you can kind of see it over here. I think if I click too fast, it gets a little bunched up. But you can see the colors fading every time I tap. Maybe I need to reset this. And you could add a delay here or increase this exponential smoothing. So as it finishes one rotation, it'll perfectly kind of seamlessly change color. It looks like it's working pretty smoothly already. You almost don't notice the color change because it happens as things are moving around. So that's it for the color changing part.